This is the Transportation Committee meeting. Today is Monday, June 27th, here in the City Council chambers. I'm Darrell O'Quinn. I have with me Councilor Tate and Councilor Woods. Our first item on the agenda is consideration of the June 13th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes as written.
Second the motion.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, that motion passes. Next item on our agenda, I don't believe Detective Pitts is here, and I know the applicant is not here. We have a new application for CNPC. This is Collier's Way Transportation for a non-emergency medical services transportation. The Detective Pitts did provide a letter saying that the applicant has met all the requirements, and so we'll consider a motion to recommend that to the full council for approval. All right. All in favor say aye. 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 That motion passes. All right. Next up, we have a presentation from Mr. Todd Stennis with Amtrak.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be before you this afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Council members, it's good to see you again as always. I'm actually not going to do the presentation today. I've got my colleague Lindsay Bates with me. She is actually the master at as far as our project that we have that's upcoming, that she's going to share some information with you. We've got a PowerPoint that she's going to share with you to show what we're going to be doing as far as ADA is concerned at the station up on the track level. And I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay, and once she concludes, if there's any questions, we'll do our best to answer them all for you. So thank you very much, Lindsay.
Good afternoon.
Just a second, my
I have a paper copy.
Oh, that'd be great. As Todd mentioned, again, my name is Lindsay Bates. I am the design project manager for the Amtrak ADA Stations program for the improvements that we have planned at Birmingham. I should note right up front that we actually have a couple different projects going on. We have the initiative by the ADA program. Along with that initiative, we have proposed track work. We have some improvements by our facilities department and some improvements by the SOGR department, which is the state of Pittsburgh. I'll touch on them during the presentation, but my main focus is the ADA. So just a quick overview of the ADA mission. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 mandates that all stations served by Amtrak must be made accessible. Our program serves to bring all station components for which all of those improvements must adhere with the 2006 DOTAS, which is the Department of Amtrak Engineering Standards guidelines recommended by the State Historic Preservation Office, and also any guidelines or requirements by the host railroad, which would be CSX. So our scope of work overview. I'm sure everyone here knows that the intermodal facility is owned by the city, and Amtrak.
You could speak into the mic, please. I can hear you fine, but we have a live stream, and their audio is picked up through the mic. So
it says it clear as day right in front of me, right?
Yeah.
To speak loudly. So the facility is owned by the city, and Amtrak does not have ADA responsibility since we only lease space within that building for our ticket counters and shared use of the restrooms. We do have responsibility for the areas that are owned by CSX, so that would be the platforms, the former waiting room and any of the vertical transportation in those tunnels that gets you up to the platform. Next slide, please. Just a note about the existing conditions. I'm sure we're all very familiar with the station, but just a few photos to demonstrate what's there now. Right now, there's 2,000-foot-long low-level island platforms. The north platform, which is closest to the station building, that's no longer in service as there are no tracks there. And Amtrak, our service stops on the southernmost track of the southern platform. The existing platforms are in deteriorated condition. The canopy is also not in great shape. They're very low level, so they're only at top of rail. There's limited signage and limited lighting. Obviously not conducive for ADA accessibility. Next slide, please. As I had mentioned a moment ago, the multimodal facility is not included in our scope of work, but the area outlined in blue, again, that is all owned by CSX, and so that falls under our scope of work. This is not only for the ADA program, but all of our state of good repair improvements and our facilities improvements, which I mentioned previously, will be in this area. So that's when you walk through those doors, it's the former waiting area, there's the tunnel access. Down to your right, there's a long hallway that gets you to the baggage tunnel. All of that is owned by CSX. Slide, please. So the unique opportunity that we have here at Birmingham is because we have that second platform to the north. Photo. Again, there are no tracks there now, but CSX would not be using those tracks. Because CSX doesn't use those tracks, we have an opportunity to make that platform what we call level boarding, which is 48 inches top of rail. Typically on host railroad lines, because their cars are just wider, we have to have the proper clearances, so we usually keep our platforms low level. But here, again, we have that opportunity since CSX doesn't use that back platform and track. And so it's very exciting for us when we can provide a fully compliant platform. So in the photo, you can see the description there that south platform is the north platform is to be level boarding. We are going to demolish the canopy and rebuild it. We are going to rebuild the track in between those two platforms there. I should note that north platform, our intention right now is to build an island platform so that a fourth track can be put on that other side. So all the way to the north, kind of where in that photo the grassy area is. So that is in the plan that we're trying to think for the future. And then finally, we are going to demolish that kind of smaller roof structure towards the back over the baggage elevators. That's what's happening at the platform level above ground. Next slide, please. You can see a plan view of the vertical circulation that we're going to be providing. So there's two stairways that go up to the platform. In one of those penetrations, we're going to be providing a passenger elevator. On the other side, in that other penetration, we are going to replace the stairs and provide an escalator. All the way down on the other side, we will be providing an elevator for baggage services, a brand new elevator. In addition, I just want to note, looking in plan view, we'll be providing off of either end of the platform, we are required to provide areas of rescue assistance for egress. If there's ever an emergency, passengers can go to either end for assistance. ADA improvements on the interior are fairly minor. We plan to replace the doors that lead into the platform access. A couple small things, just those handrails there. We have to modify the extensions at the end. Pretty minor work. The door is the largest thing there. And again, just replacing those stairs, adding the escalator and elevator, and just improving the vertical circulation there. Slide, please. So I want to touch briefly on the other two projects that are in process right now. Again, we have our facilities group, and our facilities group works to improve things kind of on a surface level. So this is something that was improved in just last month in May. We replaced all of the lighting in the tunnel and access to the platform area. Let's see, all new LED light panels were installed. Continuing on with facilities, if you go to the next slide. We intend to refinish all of the tile. All of that pink tile in the tunnel and hallway will be replaced with something called a miracle method, which is just like a surface recoating, and it's going to be replaced with a white speckled finish. The other interior walls will remain unpainted. Or excuse me, I misspoke. Other interior walls will be repainted. Some other improvements that the facilities group is handling is removing the old payphones, removing the water fountain that's in there, the TV, just kind of cleaning up a little bit and taking those old relics out of there.
It's like a museum.
Pardon?
It's like a museum in there.
Yeah, I know.
Payphone? What is a payphone?
I know. But you'd be surprised. You would be surprised. People sometimes do use them. I've seen it at other stations. And again, just, various surface repairs in that tunnel area, because, it is funny because the waiting room is so beautiful, and then you go through the threshold and it's subpar. So we are working to improve that. Okay, next slide, please. Here are the improvements planned for the state of good repair. These are more intensive improvements. These are things that we need to get a designer for, hire a contractor, go through the procurement process. One of the major things that we'll be doing is tunnel waterproofing. I had mentioned previously that as part of the ADA project, we are rebuilding the tracks. So while we have all that, dug up, that's the opportunity for us to provide waterproofing there. Next slide, please. And finally, even though we will be moving all of our operations to the north platform, we plan to stabilize the southern platform. Just to kind of get us there in the meantime. I'll talk about timeline for these projects in a moment, but just something kind of in the interim to make sure everyone is safe. There are some elements of that canopy that give me a little bit of concern, so we'll go ahead and stabilize that and make sure that's safe. And then again, in the future, we do just want to stabilize that, because even though, again, we're moving to the north platform, in instances where we have a meet where we have 2 trains at once, we still have that platform for passenger use, for the one-off situation. For the next steps, the ADA portion of this is the largest. Right now, we are currently in design. We've received our 30% submission from our designers, and that design is projected to be completed by the end of 2022. Now, the thing that takes the longest with our program is third-party approvals. So again, I had mentioned that we are held to the requirements of the host railroad and also the State Historic Preservation Office. So they do have a little bit of a lead time. The biggest hiccup right now is that we are working through some agreements with CSX for the reconstruction of that track. So that will be a big, a big process that we hope will go sooner, as soon as we can make it. But that is kind of the things that we hang our hats on. We're done. Our design will be done and ready to go by the end of the year, but can't do anything without anyone else's approval. The state of good repair work, we are currently reviewing the proposals from the designers. That should be taking off very soon. I expect the design to be completed in 2023. The construction is to be completed, again, as I mentioned before, concurrently with the track reconstruction, which is slated for FY23. Again, this is all pending the CSX agreements. And then the facilities work, since that's mostly surface repairs, that will be completed by the end of this year.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Tell me why the State Historic Preservation Office is involved in this project. It's a historic preservation project?
It's not a preservation project. But we do need to go through the Section 106 consultation process because the
Right.
platform and the station border a historic district.
Right.
So we do need to be
Okay,
sensitive to
gotcha.
that.
Understood. Yeah, because I guess historically, Terminal Station was our, passenger rail station, and that wasn't even the original one. So, okay, good to know. Do you guys have any questions? Councilor Woods, Councilor Tate? So I believe Mr. Stennis had come originally, like maybe back in 2018, to forecast that this was on the horizon, and I've been pestering you about it ever since. Yeah.
Well, if I can add just one thing to what Lindsay is presenting, we're really happy about this.
This is going to be a great addition to the city of Birmingham as well as the intermodal facility. Is Raleigh, North Carolina has the first brand new train station that is fully ADA compliant from train vestibule to street curb in the south. Birmingham will be the first deep south train station that is fully ADA compliant from train vestibule to street curb. You already have the intermodal facility that was done just a couple of years ago that we cut the ribbon on just a couple of years ago, and now we're going to get the railroad side of that component completed with the ADA and SOGR project. So this will be a great addition to complement what's already there. And I think it will change the face of Amtrak in Birmingham, and it will change the way we are perceived and the city is perceived here, because we always like to say that the train station is the front door to your community, and we want to make the front door look a whole lot better than it presently does, whether you're getting off the train, getting on the train, or you're just simply passing through. And this is that opportunity.
Yeah. I know this is a question that Council Woods especially will be interested in the answer to. Talk to me about passenger rail in general in the state of Alabama and regionally in the Southeast. I know that the Infrastructure and Jobs Act has a lot of funding for passenger rail. What improvements can we look to see within the state of Alabama and regionally with regard to passenger rail service?
Well, you're probably aware of the Gulf Coast project that we're working on right now, and we have some challenges that we're working through at the moment. I'm not at liberty to discuss it because we're before the STB at this time, but that's the first project that would impact the state of Alabama as far as new service goes from Amtrak. As far as Birmingham goes, this is the next project. Now, we also have our broader Amtrak Connects Us vision plan, that in that vision we see additional frequencies serving Birmingham. That's in our ACU vision. That's online now. And this is something that can certainly help set the stage for that by having the proper facility with the additional track and infrastructure that would be necessary to support that. So you kind of look at the chicken and egg situation, and we obviously want to get the station addressed first from an infrastructure standpoint and an ADA standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Woods?
Yeah, I had a different question. I want to change that now. I guess in a perfect world, if you had to connect our Amtrak station to a couple of places that we're not currently connected to,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just if there's two additional sites, just in a perfect world, Councilor Quinn's going to cover the full budget. Like, what two cities should we be connected to, in your opinion?
You really are putting me on the spot. I don't want to be shot at by another city council or mayor, so I'm going to defer to the state on that and those cities, because at the end of the day, let me say this. You all at the state and local level will make that decision as far as what cities are served going different directions out of Birmingham. And I want to say Birmingham because you are the crossroads in the state of Alabama as far as rail infrastructure goes. You can go any direction from Birmingham, and there's a lot of opportunity. And we certainly want to see Amtrak service grow in Alabama. But when you look at the IIJA legislation, the majority of those funds go through the Federal Railroad Administration. And the majority of that expansion opportunity that you see will be handled at the state level through the Federal Railroad Administration. So the first steps actually already been taken because the FRA put the guidelines out back in May, and that was for the states to step forward and say, we're interested in participating in that process. Now, I know the Southern Rail Commission has submitted a request to participate in the process, which is really the evaluation of what you want to see as far as growth strategy. But that's where that begins, and they'll start to dig into the details as the next year plus goes by. But I think there's a lot of opportunity on the horizon, and it's going to be up to the states to take advantage of that. So relative to the states taking advantage of it, it's going to be up to the local leadership to push that with the state leadership to say, hey, this is something we want. This is an opportunity for us to exercise federal dollars and bring them to our respective communities and states. I hope that helps.
I was trying to read between the lines, but those lines were really close together. But I will say, like I said, I've got some folks I know in the Northeast and things like that, and there's a lot of people that will live in one place and literally daily commute via Amtrak,
Yes.
Delaware to Philly and things like that. So, yeah. So.
I'm going to defer to Lindsay on that since she's a Philly girl.
Oh.
And I'm just the Mississippi guy, your next door neighbor.
Awesome. In terms of ridership within the state currently, how many customers are served out of the Birmingham station?
Roughly about 45,000. And that number's ticking back up. Obviously, like every other mode of transportation, we saw a downturn during COVID, and that number has been slowly ticking back up. Right now, we are still dealing with the after effects of COVID. We're not running daily yet, but we hope to be running daily by the end of the fall. As soon as summer's over, let's get into the fall, and we expect to put daily service back on. We're running 5 days a week right now, and we're still hovering around that number in ridership. So the train is full. We're doing as well as we can do under the circumstances, just keeping everything stretched as tight as we can.
Awesome. Please let us know, especially myself, if we can be of assistance in communicating with CSX. Would happy to, be in their ear on behalf of you all to help move this along. It's been a project that's been on the radar for a long time, and with regard to Amtrak service in the city of Birmingham, that's the only negative feedback that I've heard is from people who have mobility issues trying to utilize the station. Otherwise the intermodal station is lovely. So the accessibility issue has been, what my constituents have reached out to me to try and get addressed, and I'm glad that sometime in 2022 we'll have an escalator and an elevator. We'll have the design, so the construction will be later.
Yes. It's slated for FY25.
Wow. Okay. All right. I was about to get excited.
If our agreements go through faster, we'll be here faster.
Okay. All right.
Councilman O'Quinn, just know that Lindsay has all of the presents to deliver for you. And I'm just the messenger. She's going to bring you the escalator. She's going to bring you the elevator. So I'll defer to. I'm going to put all the pressure on her.
FYI, I don't know if this will, impact me at all, but we do have an election in August of 2025, and I'm sure whoever is seeking to get back in office would love to have a ribbon cutting in front of a brand new escalator at the Amtrak station. So. Just putting that on your radar.
We'll do our best.
Okay. Other thing I want to let you know about is, as one of the components of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, there's a discretionary program in there called the Rail Crossing Elimination Grant. I am strongly encouraging our administration to apply for that, and Norfolk Southern is looking to do some additions of sidings to relieve, train traffic pressure. So I want to put that let you know about that. So, if I know these delays and stoppages on these main corridors, which Norfolk Southern, is the primary operator for the main corridor through the city. I know that has to, on occasion, impact Amtrak. I think Amtrak is actually given preference on those lines.
We're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. All right. But my point is that more rail infrastructure benefits everybody. And so we would love to have you all support in applying as part of this application for these infrastructure improvements here. And, so there we go.
Yes, sir. We'll just keep you posted on that.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for giving us an update, and hopefully it'll be before 2025 when I see you again.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Call upon us anytime. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. All right. Next up on our agenda, we have an update relative to the World Games transportation. Ms. Argo.
Good afternoon. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Great. Certainly want to take all your questions. I'm sure y'all have a lot of burning questions about what's happening, but thought I would go through kind of at a high level some of our plans related to the making for the games, and then and he is.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody has the transit line map. That's just one piece of how people will be getting around during the games, and I'll go back into more detail about that. But I did want to mention that Birmingham On Demand will be they are matching the service hours that we are proposing for the we will have two vehicles that will be ADA accessible during the games, operating those in conjunction. So they'll play a big piece. Micromobility is another piece of transportation puzzle. VO has increased their fleet by, I think, 300 devices. We're working to make sure that all the correct that people walking are protected, people riding are protected. So all of those measures will be in place. It becomes an issue of concern. So then if you want to jump back to the transit line, we're excited that we have 4 different options, 4 different lines to ride. It really hits all of the main spots across the city related to venues and other.
If you could pull the mic up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
A little too tall. So can I? Yeah. How about that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing to note is we have set up a key destination called the Hub at the Plaza, and that is that top square there that is at 22nd Street and RAW Boulevard. So that is where 3 of the lines will cross and where you can get on and off the red line, the blue line, or the green line, and it is the closest location to the BJCC area, which includes several different venues, Legacy, some exhibition halls, the Sheraton, and so that'll be a really busy spot during the games. Rideshare will also be stationed there. And then if you look through the map at the other places, we're hitting some key venues like Powell Avenue, Railroad Park, Avondale, Sloss. The 2 spots that are the best spots for parking, for park and ride, is Legion Field and the World Games East parking lot, which is at 5th Avenue South and 33rd Street South. And all of our stops on all of these lines will be well signed and staffed and lit. We'll have portalettes there. We'll have hydration. So we've got big plans for next week. I'll just pause there and let you guys dig in and ask questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned geofencing. If you could talk a little bit more about what all is going to be tied to that.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you're aware now, but we do have some geofencing in place around Railroad Park, for example, because we were having issues with folks riding through the park, and there's lots, that park is very active. So we're going to approach City Walk Plaza in the same way. We will limit riding in that area, and they can do that through their system, and it's like I don't know what kind of tracking thing is on the devices, the scooters and the bikes, but it basically will shut that device off as you approach that area that is a no-ride zone. And we can also designate areas as a slow ride zone. So 15 miles per hour is the maximum speed limit for bikes and scooters, the e-bikes. So we can, with a slow ride zone, we can limit that to 7 miles per hour. So still let people access the site, but slow them down so, it's the safety prioritized there. Does that make sense?
Okay. The main parking hubs will be the Crossplex, the First Avenue South lot at 41st Street in Avondale.
So, yeah, so that is a good parking spot. We're just not going to advertise that just because the spaces are limited, but certainly that is open for business.
And Legion Field. Okay, and I suppose people could also park in Homewood and ride the Magic City Connector as well, right?
Correct.
And everything's free.
Everything's free. Plenty of on-street parking. If you notice around the UAB area, we don't have a stop right on the venue, but there's plenty of parking around, on-street parking around in that area. Really what we know is what we're going to have challenges as it relates to the BJCC just because of security parameters, and those parameters have limited the amount of parking decks we have access to. And then we know Avondale and Sloss is also challenged when it comes to parking. So those places, it really makes sense for folks to park in the city center somewhere and hop on the shuttle, park at that east parking lot, hop on the shuttle. It's a quick scooter ride, bike ride. It's like a 3-minute ride if you want to. And we'll have a micro-mobility station there. So we'll stage bikes and scooters at that east parking lot, and you could just be at Avondale Park in 5 minutes.
Okay, and can you speak to the hours of operation and the headways or the frequency that you'll be able to catch one of these shuttles?
Absolutely. So the hours of operation, 7 to 11 is what we have published. We are still kind of assessing ticket sales this week, and we will make a recommendation towards the end of the week of what we will actually be operating at, because we want to make sure that we pick up everybody at the end of the night. So we know that there'll be events happening up until 10 p.m. A lot of nights. There's free concerts at City Walk Plaza, so we just want to make sure that we don't start too early so we can have coverage at the end of the evening. So we'll have final hours towards the end of the week, but that's our plan thus far. Headways, we're looking at 20 to 30 minutes. For all of the lines.
Okay.
Of course, that's kind of a moving target, but that's what we're looking for. And then opening and closing are a little bit different in the fact that we have lots more buses to support those numbers of people getting to Protective Stadium. So you'll see for opening and closing, we ramp up our buses to, I think for opening we'll have 50 buses that will be basically will be running from Legion Field and from the east parking lot. So they won't be stopping anywhere else because that's the only place that the event is happening. And so those buses will be able to move a lot of people for the crowd that we're expecting at the stadium.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So, you know, at some of the larger, more recent events at Protective Life Stadium, like, you know, the Stallions games or the Garth Brooks concert, we had lots of folks parking on the right-of-ways underneath the expressway interchange. But with the security perimeters, is some of that going to be not available at this point?
I'm going to let Mr. Blevin speak to that, but a lot of those areas are within that secure perimeter, if I'm not mistaken.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Kelvin Blevin, Service Deputy Director, Department of Transportation. Up under the interstate, we're working with AlDOT, so they're going to do a temporary solution to prevent some of that parking up under the interstate.
Okay.
So they should be working on that this week and likely the weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be sure to, you know, communicate that in my, you know, communications to the public because I think some folks have probably, you know, established that as available parking now, but definitely want to let them know that they shouldn't expect to be able to do that moving forward. Okay.
Also wanted to follow back up on your other question about Avondale. You asked for the lot on First Avenue and 41st, or the one by the railroad tracks, the BPA lot?
Yeah, the BPA lot. It's it's next to the railroad tracks near First Avenue South. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be accessible, but it would be $10 a day
Okay.
for that lot.
All right. Gotcha. All right. Any additional questions?
Ms. Argo, you mentioned at the Hub Plaza, I know Councilor O'Quinn was asking about like the schedule for pickup. So will you guys post a schedule, like you said, every 20 or 30 minutes would like be time frames? Like you did say the pickup time would be like from 7 to 11, like I'm just using this as a scenario. Like if you pick up at 1 o'clock, you'll be back at 1:30. So will that information be posted out to the public?
So here's how this operates. The blue and the green line are a rolling shuttle. So the blue and the green, let's just say the green pulls in and there's 20 people there waiting. It may hang out for a few minutes to wait to grab some more folks, and it just rolls through town. So there's no schedule. The red line is the Magic City Connector. And so what we've done is we've partnered with BJCTA to have that red line pull into the hub. And so it will be functioning very much like the Magic City Connector functions now, where it pulls in, you get on, it rolls on, because we want to keep that one moving. And they have federal requirements on that as well. It can't just sit there and wait. So that's kind of how the timing will work.
I just got to say kudos to the person who designed this map. This is like
well, I have to give
pretty awesome
credit where credit's due. Paige Ishmael and our team has partnered with us on this, and we sat around and looked at what other modern, exciting cities were doing. This is modeled after the Underground in London.
Yeah.
So we were excited to put together kind of a comprehensive look at what our transportation system for us.
Yeah, it looks like something that you would see on the subway in a big city somewhere, you know. It's
that was the goal.
Yeah.
I will take that back to her. She'll be excited to hear
Yeah.
that. So.
Kudos to Paige. Awesome job.
I hope this won't be the last time we see something like this roll out for an event in our city, because I think it's going to be a new way for us to support large-scale events.
Yeah. Awesome. So, somewhat related, but not part of the World Games transportation is the bus rapid transit system. And I guess it's public information now that we did have an aspirational goal of trying to have that up and running in time for the World Games. The margin for actually accomplishing that was always razor thin, and, you know, subject to have it delayed. Anything as minor as a thunderstorm could have, you know, caused a delay. Well, that has now manifested itself, and you know, I guess the fortunate thing is that the majority of the construction has been completed. So, you know, major thoroughfares like First Avenue North are, you know, back to normal capacity. But that being said, is there a new sort of date when we might anticipate? I saw that.
So to answer your question, Counselor, right now we don't have a tentative date because we work weekly with the FTA. Of course, this is a FTA project, so there's a lot of hurdles and a lot of things that we have to clear off with them first before they release the actual BRT line to Birmingham and to the BJCTA. Our hope is to actually have it by September, but like I said, we meet with a lot of leadership at the FTA weekly with Ms. Denise Bell and myself, clearing everything with Dr. Taylor to try and get this moving as fast as possible. But like you said, a lot of the construction work is done. The roadways are pretty much fixed and done. It's just getting everything checked off with them federally and to make sure that the grant is feasible.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think the deadline for the original award was September of this year, correct?
That's correct. But we're moving very fast on it because I think we submitted one of our last white sheets a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully we can do it before then. But yes, according to the original grant application, it was supposed to be done in September.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, we had the big funding issue, so that kind of slowed up a lot of things too.
Right.
As a silver
Right.
lining, we've got the yellow line here that BJCTA was able to offer and partner with us on. And so the yellow line follows roughly where the BRT line will be running. And it actually stops a little bit less frequently because really it's targeted towards supporting the games. And so it's going to run a little bit quicker. So I think that even though we aren't quite there with the BRT, we're still in really good shape as far as being able to offer an east-west line that goes from the Crossplex to Avondale for the games.
Yeah. All right, great. You know, and for just the general public, you know, this is again, it was an aspirational goal for us to be able to show this off to the visitors coming to the World Games. But, you know, the more important thing is that we have one of the biggest advances in public transportation that's happened in the city in many decades, that's about to come online, and it's going to, you know, serve the people who live, work, and play here for many years into the future. And we're very near to the finish line. So while it would have been great to show it off for the company, you know, it's here to serve our citizens and I think the 29 neighborhoods that it passes through, and provide opportunities for those folks to access healthcare, education, employment, and many other, you know, things that make for a good quality of life. So look forward to being able to, you know, see that fully functional, and, you know, see y'all at the ribbon cutting.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so the question is about, I guess, and I've also gotten some recent questions. Okay, so the general question is how are we communicating this out? And are there businesses that are going to be particularly impacted? Certain areas of town. I know downtown is, and Parkside are have big cordons in terms of security perimeters.
So communication, first of all, how we're communicating our plans. So if you, not related to security, but related to how you get around during the games, if you go to .com/ride, it has all the information about all the transportation options during the game. And then related to security, I'm going to let
Getting the information out, transportation. As far as getting the information out, transportation, OPI has been working, talking to different business residents, just going around door to door and just expressing any concerns with business owners, and to tell them how they can get around within the perimeter and outside of the perimeter for their businesses, for vendors that need to get to the business. So we've teamed up with them and constantly just addressing concerns and questions as they come about.
Okay.
As far as the perimeter, July 2nd. So we'll start the perimeter downtown. We've started putting message boards up just to get people in the mindset that you're going to have to start taking detours around the perimeter. We've also put some signs out with detour routes. In the coming days, we'll push that out a little bit harder as far as the message boards and the signs around each perimeter. Some closures will take place on the 5th and 6th after the 4th of July, but the main closure downtown will take place on July 2nd.
All right, great. With respect to Legion Field specifically, I've gotten calls from a couple of constituents recently who are asking whether or not there's going to be a similar arrangement for residents in that area that we have in place for the Classic, where residents are issued like a window hanger, basically passes per household. My understanding is that is not going to happen. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've looked at the area, and every resident in the closed corridor can access their homes via alley or come down beside the resident, come down the street, but they may have to run into a closure and come back up. But every resident or business owners around access to their homes.
Right, so my understanding is that the primary street closure in that area is going to be on 8th Avenue North? Yes, okay. So Graymont's still going to be open, Arkadelphia will be open, Center Street will be open? Awesome.
And it's only going to be closed during the time when flag football is operational?
During the games, and after the games end, then 8th Avenue West back up. And that'll be the same as far as Avondale. I believe, off the top of my head, Avondale runs pretty much the length of the games. Same as for Bessie Estelle to accommodate St. Elias Church, right when the games start and when it ends.
Yeah, okay. Any additional questions? All right, thank you so much for all of the information. Again, please give Paige kudos for the map. This is awesome. And I believe that's it. Do we have any old or new business that we need to discuss? All right. Need some traffic lights? All right. Motion to adjourn? All right, all in favor say aye. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.